Thank you, everyone, for being here. Today, our topic is Legacy Media Dinosaur Turns to Oil. Yes, you heard it right. It's just a matter of time before the mainstream media dinosaur, as we know it, finally succumbs and becomes oil. Today, there are House hearings on judicial overreach, and it's clear that these activist judges, their days are numbered. The question is what to do. In the meantime, I believe that Donald Trump is wisely ignoring the injunctions and mandates of these judges as he goes, which are designed to mire him and slow him and tie him up in court throughout the 4 years of his presidency. It generally takes any case 2 years because the Supreme Court they're the laziest institution that exists, and they only take on about 8 cases a year. And so most court cases get stuck between the district level and the appellate level. And then the Supreme Court sits for 4 to 6 months to even decide whether they will take on a case that's been presented to them. And that appears to be the go-to move that was successful during the first Trump administration. Now it's not gaining ground. So specifically, the District of Columbia's Judge Boasberg has been silenced and quieted. President Trump and his cabinet are continuing to push forward with all of their agenda. They just received a big win from the Fourth Circuit Court judges and allowing Donald Trump to continue to dismantle USAID. The reality is President Trump just continued with his plans despite being sanctioned and injunctions blocking him from having access and dismantling. President Trump physically cleared out the USAID office, took the sign off the building as his court case was being appealed. And it's great that a Fourth Circuit Court decided that what he was doing was well within his rights. Now, how we discipline these activist judges. I believe that a lot of these courts should be dismantled as well. That way you just have fewer judges. In addition to that, I believe Attorney General Pam Bondi should make a list, just as Kash Patel has a list of people. Every judge that's placed an injunction should be placed on this list for further investigation by the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. My belief is, along with Judge Boasberg and the judge in Southern New York, we're going to find out that there's some monetary ties to USAID and other entities. We already found out that the injunction that the New York judge placed on the $2 billion trying to block Donald Trump from cutting the $2 billion that was set to be dispensed. We found out that this judge in Southern New York district actually sits on the board of directors of a nonprofit 501c that has received over $148 million in the last 20 years. We've also found out that Judge Boasberg and his daughter received some type of remuneration from the additional funding that's being dispersed through USAID. In addition to that, now that the Fourth Circuit Court has decided that President Trump and we already knew that, was well within his rights to dismantle USAID. A lot of the mainstream media is surprisingly cutting back on their staff. Their viewership has gone down. It's just a matter of time. I already told you that NBC, CBS, ABC, and CNN are going to go bankrupt, and they're going to go up for sale within the next 18 months after Trump's inauguration. And I jokingly said that Donald Trump would buy and purchase NBC. And I would imagine Elon Musk is going to purchase one or two of these entities as well. They've attempted to go online, but their online presence is no different than their on the air presence, as well as their printed format. Basically, what you see is ABC, NBC, and CBS regurgitating articles that are coming from the New York Times, from Forbes, from other liberal-leaning newspapers. And then it seems that this foreign entity, CNN, is driving the narrative. In addition to that, Associated Press has outright lost all of its credibility that it's held on to for the last 100 years. Since the 1920s, the Associated Press has pretty much dictated what is the news, and they've been bumped from the White House press staff that they've been a part of for more than 100 years. And so with that, I'm going to share with you a clip from Stephen Gardner, one of my trusted media sources and compadres. And we're watching the panic. This is going to describe the panicking of the mainstream fake news media.
The mainstream media started, having to do cuts and let people go. I don't know if there's any connection there, but I can see just from the data, viewership, retention, sponsorship, the number of 18 to 34 on the weekend, all those data points. It seems like Trump is breaking the mainstream media, or at least the left-leaning media. What are your thoughts on where the mainstream media might be by the end of the Trump administration?
Yeah, they are a dead man walking right now, Stephen. In fact, it's interesting. That was actually the subject of one of my most recent newsletters to our subscribers. The media is in a free fall, not just in terms of money, right? They're shedding jobs. They're having to cut back the salaries of their key people. They're losing market share dramatically. But even more importantly, for their long-term sustainability, their trust levels are absolutely in the toilet. Gallup had some recent numbers that showed that less than 1 in 3 Americans have trust in the media. I don't see how they recover from that. They are really in trouble. And by the way, this isn't just the national fake media, right? Yeah, we know the Washington Compost is now trying to reframe itself as like, we believe in freedom. We'll see how that turns out, but they have lost huge numbers of subscribers. CNN is cutting staff like you can't imagine. They're cutting back salaries. MSNBC chopping the payroll down. Associated Press has laid off, I think, almost 10% of its workers just recently. Now they're losing all these contracts and all these funding streams from the federal government through USAID and others, Politico. They're in huge trouble financially. But this goes all the way down to the local level, Stephen. Local newspapers have been in trouble for a long time. I actually think their business model is pretty outdated, but I believe they could thrive if they weren't constantly dishonest, right? People are tired of being lied to. And so what we've seen over the last few years, and this trend really started picking up in 2016, I think thanks largely to Donald Trump exposing all this, was the rise of a whole new type of media. And that includes major podcasters, people like you. It includes independent outlets. It includes outlets that now have an established track record of telling the truth. So you see companies like Your News now popping up to start breaking into the local news sector. And I think these things are going to continue. I think the mainstream media's model is dead, both the cable, the national newspapers, the magazines. And we're going to see dramatic transformations here because of the credibility. And I don't care how much advertising money Big Pharma has, this can't continue.
Well, speaking of that, RFK Jr. is looking to ban Big Pharma from advertising on TV and specifically being the majority income stream.
And there you have it right there. So the mainstream media days are numbered. Their monopoly on the narrative is has died and is quickly dying and deteriorating. President Trump was the leader of this movement by resorting to Twitter back when it was called Twitter and now called X in 2016 and tweeting daily. And it was Barack Obama's campaign and young people in his campaign that used social media such as Facebook to get Barack Obama elected. And then when Donald Trump turned around and used the same playbook, now then that turned into the Russia hoax by Hillary Clinton, and they turned against Donald Trump. So he was and Donald Trump was loved by NBC until it was clear he was going to win. And even Megyn Kelly turned against Donald Trump, and now she's back supporting Donald Trump. So it's interesting. We've seen this. I've been calling this now for a year. Man, how time flies. It's incredible to know that time has flown. 1 year ago, I was discussing how the mainstream media was at an end. I didn't know how close my prediction really was. And so I'm catching up right now to how no one was aware that USAID was funding the mainstream media. And of course, they were receiving billions, hundreds of millions of dollars to supposedly report on foreign news, and they were using it to enrich their own pockets as well as controlling the narrative. Now that USAID has been dismantled, you see PBS, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, and other outlets that are cutting back on staff at a rapid pace. And it's because they were receiving a lot of money where they didn't even need to advertise from USAID. And so that was a true slush fund to promote the left-leaning propaganda. That is a part of the swamp. I believe that there's probably 25% of registered elected Republican people in Congress, both in the House and Senate, that are really Democrats, and they are posing as Republicans to actually win the vote. But if you look at how they vote, they basically vote Republican. So now that this is being revealed, all of this fraud is being revealed is very refreshing. In addition to that, we see that the mainstream media is trying to take any narrative and turn an ant into a molehill just by, like with the whole Signal Gate, they want to blow it out of proportion. It's and this is something I noticed all the way back in 2022. And in October 2022 is when I joined Twitter X, the week or two after the sale to Elon Musk was official. I was following Laura Loomer. I was following her, responded to a lot of her comments. And then I think 3 to 4 months in 2023, I just started noticing some weirdness in her comments. She was a part of everything, but some of the comments she made were strange. And so I would tweet out, "Don't trust this woman. There's something wrong about her." Now it's coming out that her husband works for a law firm that, and also the government. And as a part of the government, a government attorney, Laura Loomer's husband, is responsible for putting a lot of January 6th defendants behind bars. So there it is right there. It finally came out. And now even Stephen Gardner and his guests, everybody is questioning Laura Loomer. She's lost her credibility right now. She's not trusted. As we speak, I'm going to, in live real time right now, I'm going to Twitter X, and I'm just going to type her name in so you can see the reaction now to Laura Loomer. And I'm going to find some comments. And I couldn't understand why, and I'm still following her in my account. I couldn't understand why President Trump in 2023 was getting on X and speaking with Laura Loomer. And she was always reporting, but then all of a sudden there'd be a crazy twist to what she was reporting that was not true. And that's what made me suspect there was something not right about her. So let's find something most recent. This is what I'm talking about. It's hard for you to this is why she's suspect. Listen to her headline from yesterday. U.S. State Department set to embarrass Marco Rubio and Melania Trump tomorrow by having them give an award to a group of Islamist female protesters who were funded by USAID to create a color revolution in Bangladesh alongside members of the Islamic terror group Hizb ut-Tahrir. Vetting crisis exposed. The latest example of the vetting crisis in the Trump administration is now creating an embarrassing situation for Secretary of State Rubio and the First Lady Melania Trump involving Islamic terrorists. So these are the type of headlines that about Laura Loomer that began making me suspect that there's something not right about her. Now, let's see this one. And then she goes on to report, it was extremely embarrassing for Melania Trump and Secretary Rubio to attend the International Women of Courage Award ceremony today. I think you could see on their faces how uncomfortable they were the entire time. And I noticed how the event was even cut short. So following my expose. So this is what I'm talking about. I began to realize that a lot of her comments and headlines were to show to sow doubt. And from that point on, I just began tweeting that there's something not right about Laura Loomer. And now more is coming out. And she just keeps retweeting, reposting herself. So but like, if you read her comments, I'm just going through her feed. And some of her stuff, just knocking a camera down. Okay, let me find something. Yes. So, I look at what she reports, and I believe that Laura Loomer knows she's been exposed as an undercover spy for the left. And so her comments are just all over her posts. Whereas at one time I really trusted what she printed, and once I started seeing these questionable posts to sow doubt, that's when I knew that there was something not right about her. And she's already embedded at this point. So I think right now she knows that her credibility, she's lost her credibility. So the only people she's appealing to are the left people, the leftist people that probably are funding her her undercover spying. But at this point, nobody in the MAGA movement trusts her any longer. She's not invited to key Trump meetings. She wasn't at anything significant over the last, let's say, 7 months. During the 2024 campaign, she wasn't really invited to anything significant. And before I let you go, I'm just going to do a Google search. Okay, so this is right after the inauguration. So pretty much after September 2024, President Trump distanced himself from her. And it seems everything. Okay, so yeah, so it seems like as of September 2024, Trump, somebody in his potential cabinet at that time told him that he needed to distance himself from Laura Loomer. But let's check out what we have on YouTube. Let's Okay, so I'm just going to, this is from Fox News 32 in Chicago. Let me put this up so you know this is not coming from me. But like, as I said, as of September 2024, 2 months before the election, somebody within the Trump cabinet told him to distance himself from Laura Loomer. And then I'm going to show you one other thing.
Another debate with former President Trump says he's not interested in another debate with Vice President Harris, even if the American people want to see it. 67 million people tuned in to watch this first debate. Trump critics and even some of his staunchest supporters, though, were surprised at Trump's debate performance, one Republican senator calling it a missed opportunity. At his Vegas rally, Trump accused ABC, the network which hosted the debate, of trying to boost Harris over him by fact-checking some of his remarks.
I said that crime was up massively. I didn't want to go into the details. What's the purpose? Crime was up massively. And David Muir, you know, he's another one who doesn't have a clue, you know. And his hair was much better 5 years ago, I can tell you.
The vice president's campaign says it's willing to participate in another debate. It raised more than $47 million afterwards. But Harris herself says the event was lackluster.
It was the same old show, the same tired playbook we've heard for years, with no plan on how he would address the needs of the American people. Well, folks, it's time to turn the page.
Meantime, the Trump campaign is facing growing questions about a woman who's been showing up a lot around the former president, conservative activist Laura Loomer. She's been called a fringe conspiracy theorist after calling 9/11 an inside job. But Trump says he wants to keep her around. He posted on Truth Social that she doesn't work for the campaign. She's a private citizen and longtime supporter. I disagree with the statements she's made. Like the millions of people who support me, she is tired of watching the radical left Marxists and fascists violently attack and smear me. Trump is set to return to the campaign.
So that he didn't say much there. Let's see. But that was pretty much the last time he had any association with Laura Loomer. Because I think it became clear to him that he could no longer keep her around. But let's see what, now this happened right after the inauguration. Let's see, this is from The Hill. Okay. Okay, so this is what happened. Laura, so let's get this. This is January. So this is 2 days after the Trump inauguration. Laura Loomer, a close ally of President Trump's and a far-right activist, asked the president to intervene as she continues to accuse billionaire Elon Musk of censoring an account on his social media platform, X. So yeah, that's it. So it is clear, and if you look at her account, the stuff she's spewing is very questionable, and she's almost like a grifter on both sides and everything. She got a lot of President Trump's trust. She's an activist. I am in agreement with her that I believe 9/11 was an inside job. I believe Dick Cheney and George W. Bush were responsible for that. The only way you can pancake a building is it takes 6 weeks of pyrotechnics. And it was clear, and there's too many reports out there that there were bombs, explosions, as well as gunfire. And then buildings 6 and 7 that were blocks away that were never struck, they also pancaked as well. But this is, the problem with mainstream media is that they don't report truthfully on things such as this. And so that is the reason why the mainstream media has lost a lot of its trust. At the same time, Laura Loomer is now griping. You haven't seen. And so since Trump's inauguration, you notice you haven't heard anything from Laura Loomer. She wasn't invited to the White House. She wasn't invited to the inauguration. It appears that as of September 2024, 2 months before the election, somebody within Trump's close network pointed out the inconsistencies in her behavior and that he needed to distance himself. And from that moment since, there's been no really contact or association. So there you have it right there. Appreciate you being here. The markets are fluctuating now. Let's see right here. I'm going to give you Bitcoin is up $2,470 to the price of $85,029. And the Dow Jones is down $143 to the price of $41,858. Today is April 1st. I don't see anything happening with the financial markets until the third week of April. Right now, Trump still has not released or even hinted really of any economic plan. Doge is moving away. And I believe the reason is because Doge right now, this is 140 billion. I believe that President Trump is going to so the current savings right now is $140 billion. And I believe that is going to be seed money for whatever short-term economic plan President Trump has to stimulate the economy. It buys him time until September to get a legitimate budget passed. I believe what's going to happen, and I've said it many times, is that by cutting these different programs, USAID, by putting all the viable programs for USAID under the Secretary of State, I think that's very dangerous, because now it really tempts the Secretary of State to start to grift as well. And that's probably what will happen in the next couple of administrations. But it takes away, now it has oversight, because since it's under the Secretary of State, is subject to being audited. So that is a good thing. I believe that by cutting USAID, by uncovering all this fraud in Social Security, by dismantling the Department of Education, those three actions right there will make money available for whatever budget the House passes by September. Well, not by September. Yes, by September, or they'll close. So they have until September. I believe that they need to start talking about it now, because what is going to happen is that Congress is going to go on recess during the summer. And then when they get back, they're only going to have like 2 or 3 weeks to pass a budget. It's not going to happen. Since they haven't even talked about a budget right now, since the House has not talked about a real viable budget as of this point, which is April 1st, between now and June, which begins the summer recess and vacation period, that's about April, May. Okay, that gives them 2.5 months to pass a budget. That's not going to happen. So it means in September, when they get back, they're going to have to pass another emergency resolution to get them through the holidays. And I've already said no House budget is going to even pass until January 2026. So with that being said, let's look and see what happens. Let's wait. Thank you for being here. God bless you for being a loyal listener. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you so much, and have a great day.